we sold the company, and my job was basically head of music and strategy for TikTok. What sort of unfolded over the course of really the next several years was nothing short of extraordinary. Every technology advancement we've had enabled the human to do more. Steve Jobs, I'll never forget, he has that line, one of his most famous, where he talks about the Mac in the early days. And he's like, the computer is the bicycle of the mind, right? The computer empowered human intelligence, but AI replaces human intelligence. And so it's hard for me to imagine what we do then if the things we do are automated. For the first time in my life, when I look ahead, I genuinely am not sure what is on the other side of this. I am praying. I have 4 children. I am praying that it is something better than what we have now.
On Creative Assembly's The Spark podcast, our mission is to amplify Nashville's diverse creative voices, foster growth through shared journeys, and inspire a city that thrives on collaboration. And now, here's The Spark.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Spark. I'm your host, Mark Scrivener, and today I am joined by another very special guest, John Bolton. John has been around for a long time, building AI applications for years in technology, music, and now in radio. And I am so excited to share his story on the Spark podcast. I think just having a person that has done as much as you've done in the city of Nashville is pretty exciting. And, I'm excited that you're going to share your story on the Spark podcast. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Maybe, I probably wouldn't give it all justice to everything you've done, but maybe you could help us by starting off. Just take the audience through maybe your journey.
Yeah. I think I would describe myself as a digital music entrepreneur. I was the founder of a streaming music service the idea was in 2008, but I launched the service in late 2010, early 2011. And it was a music service that we bundled with wireless carriers. And Cricket Wireless was our first big opportunity. We bundled unlimited streaming music, mobile only, and bundled it with the rate plan and included it in the phone. So it was just very simple, easy to use, and a great value. And 2010, 2011, there really was no Spotify yet. So streaming music wasn't a big thing. It was still very much PC-based or even CD-based then, and FM radio-based. And so a mobile-only digital music service at that time, it was the right time. And so I started out with that. That thing went to millions of subscribers, and we launched in Brazil. And so that's kind of where my digital music career really started. Exited that to AT&T in 2014, and then went on to do another sort of digital music type service, but this one was very different. It was a company called Flippagram. And Flippagram was really the pretext to TikTok. It really, what they did and what the app did was allow users to quickly and easily create user-generated videos with music embedded and share that out across social media. And in 2014, Flippagram went super viral. We had tens of millions of downloads, was the top app in the App Store for months across the entire planet. And then from there, went and we sold the company to ByteDance, where I helped them launch TikTok out of Beijing. And I spent a couple of years working with the leadership team at ByteDance and TikTok, and then left that to start my own AI company, which was 2018. That was before the AI hype. So I've been building an AI company now long before we heard of ChatGPT. And that one is reinventing radio and how it works and really bringing what is a very old format into the digital age and the AI age. And so that's kind of the quick arc from the start of this to where I am right now.
Yeah, well, I know we're going to jump into super hi-fi in just a little bit, but, I'm sure the audience would love to know just your, from the acquisition of like Flippagram by ByteDance, like, what was that like? Like
Yeah.
Flippagram, #1 downloaded app for 6 months in every country in the world, to ByteDance buying it, and it ultimately being a piece that became TikTok. And you saw TikTok before it even launched in China. I'd love to dig into that story a little bit more.
Yeah, it was a wild experience for me. We wanted to sell the company, and we're running a process in 2016. And it was our hope to sell to one of the big tech companies like a Facebook or an Apple or similar. And, we thought, we're going to go sell this for $1 billion and we're going to go work for, big U.S. tech. And it didn't go that way. But I think it's really interesting how it played out. Our primary investor was Sequoia Capital. And they had just made one of their largest investments in a company called ByteDance out of Beijing. And we started talking to them in 2016 as a potential buyer. And none of us were excited because we had never heard of ByteDance. At the time, we were not excited by China or tech companies in China. That really wasn't a thing. They weren't doing anything truly exciting. They were really, frankly, just copying the U.S. and not very well. And so we were underwhelmed with that opportunity, but we quickly learned that this company in particular, ByteDance, was something special because what they were doing in China was extraordinary at that time. The growth, the engagement around their service, it was really a news service, like a social news service. It was called Toutiao. And when they started telling us about the stats of that company, we didn't believe it because it just seemed impossible that they were driving engagement to that level. It was beyond anything Facebook was doing and others, Twitter at the time. And the only reason we knew it was real is because their revenue in China was real. So it's like, wow, okay, I guess you can't fake these numbers with that kind of revenue. So we met the CEO. I got to meet the CEO before any transaction. This guy Yiming out of Beijing, very short, sort of small, quiet, humble guy. Works out in the main office with everyone. No cubicle, no office, just out there with everybody. And you would never know he was the CEO and founder of this behemoth. And so he said, we what you did at Flippagram, specifically me, was I did all the music rights and the music industry relations and music strategy and operations. All things music I was responsible for at Flippagram. And that was one of the main things that ByteDance needed for their new app called TikTok. And so he said, we got to figure out the music rights. And, his first question was, do we really need them? And I laughed and I said, well, if you want to have a real business outside of China, you're going to have them. You'll get sued into oblivion if you go out there and don't have the rights to this stuff. And so I think then it was like, all right, you're the guy who knows how to do it, so go do it. And so that was my job at ByteDance, was to figure out the rights for this new app that no one had ever heard of called TikTok. And he showed me the app on his phone, and I remember seeing it and kind of was a bit shocked because it was a copy of another service called Musical.ly. And that was a service that was really blowing up in America. And it was similar to Flippagram, but this one was like a lip syncing app. You lip sync, and it was kids lip syncing to music. And they had this sort of fame loop where they would kind of get, someone would go famous every day. And so I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, this is interesting. I don't know how big the lip syncing use case is. I don't know how big the Flippagram use case is. In fact, we were starting to see limits to it. And so anyway, we sold the company, and my job was basically head of music and strategy for TikTok. And what sort of unfolded over the course of really the next several years was nothing short of extraordinary. To see that company go from 0 to hundreds of millions of users to billions of users worldwide was just shocking. It was shocking to see this tech company out of China, out of nowhere, create something that was so original and so much different, frankly, than anything on Instagram or anything on Facebook or Twitter or elsewhere or Reddit. This was a fundamentally unique and different use case. And it was, frankly, more engaging and more entertaining than anything else you were seeing in social media. And so I didn't see it in those early days. I had doubts that, a lip syncing app, a slideshow maker, what are you really going to do with this? And they figured that out, and they continue to be, I think, the leader, really, of social media in terms of revenue, in terms of users, and so it's just been extraordinary to watch that. But what's clear is, as nice as they all are over there at ByteDance, the leadership there, wonderful people, very kind and respectful. I like to build businesses. I like to have a big role in building a business. And I think when I left, they were 15,000 employees or something like that. And so I had no juice. I had no real power. Even as the head of music, I was more of an order taker than anything. Like they were just telling me, I was telling them how things worked, and then they were telling me what they wanted, and then I was executing, but I wasn't really in charge. And so after a couple of years, I thought, I think I want to get back to building a business instead of kind of being just serving whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah.
And going to Beijing was, frankly, a tough trip. I think I've been all around the world. Beijing is probably my least favorite city I've ever been to. Did not like it at all. The food was awful, and the accommodations were awful. But again, the people were great. I love the people at ByteDance, but I kind of, after a little while, I thought, I think I've done all I can do for them. It was more of a knowledge transfer than anything. And some of my old partners from my last company were working on something new, in a new way to do radio. And he said, John, take a look at this. We got to show you something. And they showed me what was an AI it was really 2017, an AI that was able to do something very unique and different. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. And they said, do you think we can commercialize this? And I was like, I think I'd like to try. And so that was the birth of Super Hi-Fi. And so I kind of found my window to kind of step out of TikTok and step into being founder and chief business officer of Super Hi-Fi.
Wow. What was, I was going to ask what it was like working for a Chinese company. And you say it was good. I mean, they were good people, treated you well.
Yeah.
What was the biggest difference that you found when you sold the company and the working relationship that you had?
They all sleep there. Heads on desks. They work till they fall asleep at their desk. And I thought that was the weirdest thing. And I think in my gut was that they do it because it's expected, not because there's that much work. Or, that's the way to show that you're, I think it's more performance, to be honest with you. Maybe not all of them, but I don't know. What are you doing all day? And then you got to sleep there. And then, so that was just, I'd come in at 8:30 in the morning and there'd be all these people sleeping at their desks. I thought, my God, what are you guys doing? What's the point of your life?
Wow.
Their work ethic, I will say, is beyond Americans, I think, in some ways. That was a big one. They're really the hierarchy and that structure and I think American we're all what's the word, we're very individualistic, and they're not. And so you see that in an organization. You take orders, you don't challenge them. You very much oh, he's senior, so I gotta yield. And I've never yielded to anyone in my life. I've never yielded to a boss. I've never, that's not, and most people I know are pretty, Again, I wouldn't say they don't yield, but individualistic. So there's just cultural. That's a big cultural difference. They tried at that time to copy American tech in a lot of ways. In the 2010s and 2000s, the big tech companies would just super serve their employees, free meals and all these amenities. Come work for us, and we'll just spoil you with all these benefits. Mm-hmm. And so they really tried to replicate that. And so there were quotes from Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs, and for some reason Ray Dalio was all over. He's an investor. Mm-hmm. They had the free lunch, the fancy cafeteria and the free lunch there, which the food was disgusting, but apparently to the locals they said it was very good food. And so there was, it was like, hey, we're going to model ourselves after American tech, but the cultural differences were very real. And the work ethic, I think, also was very different. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably the biggest differences.
How about I can only imagine what you learned there about just even algorithms of watching that platform launch and everything you learned from it. Maybe is there anything that that the audience should know about just algorithms in general? I'm sure everybody that's listening is probably like, hey, John, how can we get our video to go viral? And
well, the secret sauce of TikTok is that algorithm that quickly learns what you're interested in and then immediately super serves you with video content that keeps you engaged longer than you'd like. Mm-hmm. It's the most addictive app I've ever seen. And kids and adults will spend way more time than they'd ever think they would. And that AI, that was one of the early signs of AI where it's like, whoa, this thing is making decisions based on user inputs and serving up. And now the other thing is just the ability to pull that content, understand what's in all that different video content in their system, and then to serve it based on your needs and to truly nail it. Anyone who's used TikTok knows what I'm talking mm-hmm. about. You're almost instantly just like fixated, and it's random stuff, the most random stuff, but high engagement stuff. And so that really was a powerful thing early on that I saw. And they had developed that with Toutiao, that news app, years before. So they already had that working. The other thing that TikTok did and still does, and what really makes it different than everything else, is that it is fundamentally about entertainment. Instagram, at its core, was really about your social network. It was sharing pictures and videos, and here I am, I'm at the beach, I'm doing that, look at me, I look great in my new car, whatever. That's kind of still the DNA, although it's evolved beyond that, and they're trying to be an entertainment, Reels is trying to be like TikTok, where it's a lot of entertainment. But from day one, TikTok was strictly about, it wasn't about your friends, ever. It is about going on there and saying something, doing something that has entertainment value or some kind of, maybe it's infotainment. It's not all people dancing. But this is the place for you not to connect with friends, but for you to come out and do your thing and entertain or build audience. That was the point of TikTok, and it still is. And that's why the content's so good, because everyone that's going on there is doing something. There's so many extraordinary people saying and doing extraordinary things on there. That's not happening on Reels nearly as much, or any other platform, to be honest. And so that, thinking about like what you're doing on TikTok, what's the secret? Well, one of them is to actually have really good, engaging, authentic content. Not the pre-produced stuff you see on television, but really genuinely entertaining, authentic content is absolutely will guarantee you some amount of traction. That algorithm will immediately know, oh, this is high-grade stuff here. This person did something. They put a lot of effort. There's somehow it senses the quality of that content, and then we'll know based on what's in it, but also the tags you put on there and say, okay, this is what it's about. It's for this kind of audience in this location. And then the algorithm tests it. Sometimes in your feed, you'll see videos that have millions of likes, and then you'll see one that has none or like 5. They're using you to test. Is this good? All right, and if you quickly swipe away, like, whatever, or you stay on it. So it has a way to test the quality of content using people and AI. And so I think that's another one. What else? I think those are just sort of the core things. I mean, there's actually a lot of little details out there, but I don't know if I can add things that people wouldn't be able to find themselves with a simple Google search.
Well, you have innovated so many industries. I mean, from music to the Flippagram, social media, to now with super hi-fi, and there's you're going to reinvent or potentially reinvent the entire radio industry. Maybe we could get into that and talk a little bit about. I bet it was hard to leave ByteDance just from I'm sure you did very well there, but at the same time you saw something that you could go disrupt. And I guess maybe talk about like super hi-fi and where you're at today and what you build.
So super hi-fi is an AI music technology. The original vision was that streaming music services were all the same. They have the same music libraries, the same features generally, the same price. You listen to them the same way on your phones in your car, et cetera. There's no real fundamental difference between those services. And we thought that traditional radio, like FM radio, this thing that's been around now for, a long time, the original social network, really, the techniques that are used in broadcasts, we thought are still valuable and interesting. Personality and context and narration and of course music. But when you go to sort of the digital music world, it's playlists, just lists of music. An anonymous algorithm is serving up these songs, and so we thought, what if there was a way to bring traditional radio techniques into the digital music world and into the digital world as a way to evolve music and how we engage it and consume it. And so we developed an AI that could make decisions that a human DJ would make. And it's not just about what songs are on a station, but it's taking the elements, a voice track, a DJ, a clip from a DJ, an ad, imaging, and intros to a song. Coming up next is AC/DC, and all those things that make radio really special. It makes you feel like you're not alone. It gives you that companionship. And a lot of people will say they don't want a DJ or they don't want to hear anything about the music, but we have seen over and over again when those things are there, people listen longer because they feel like they're with someone. There feels like there's something going on there. And so we developed an AI that can take all of those elements and assemble them. And you wouldn't know it, but when you listen to a traditional FM radio station, there's a lot of work that goes into making it sound the way it sounds. Perfectly segueing a voice track into a song. Like when they talk over the beginning of a song, like our AI can do that instantly, infinitely in milliseconds, and can do it for 1 million stations at once or one station. And it doesn't matter. It can pick the right type of voice tracks and elements and ads and put it in front of a song or after a song. It can schedule and rotate music and content throughout the course of a day. In traditional radio, they do something called scheduling, where they think long and hard about what kind of music is going to be playing in the morning versus the middle of the day versus the afternoon. And so we've just automated that. It's numbers, it's math. A lot will tell you it's art, and it is art. And there's some program directors in radio that are brilliant, but we've modeled it. And we're executing on that every single day with our technology. And so that was sort of like the that's kind of what super hi-fi is. And I really just, after TikTok, and even before TikTok was a music service, which that was an innovation of itself, I kind of was on this path of like, I like to do different things with music. I like to use music to create new use cases, new business models. Frankly, use music to make money in new ways. I am a businessman at heart. I'm not a musician. But the business of music is something that I've really come to enjoy doing. And so anyway, we launched this company in 2018, and over the years, we brought on a lot of interesting customers. We power Sonos radio, so the speaker comes with radio out-of-the-box radio experience that is completely running off of our platform. And if you listen to some of those stations, they're very produced. There's DJs, and you're listening to Sonos radio and Sonic logos, and that service is hugely successful. It's more people listen to Sonos radio than just about any other service on there. And so it's a massive, massive service, global. Apple Music is one of our biggest customers. They have a radio experience that we power. That's a global service, and so they're using our technology to do a lot. They've automated a lot of the stuff that goes on there. iHeartRadio, they have a digital experience that we power. Peloton, the fitness bike, all the live experiences there, that's all music based, so that runs off our platform. And so we have kind of over the years built out this nice digital customer base and have scaled the platform. We're doing really well. We now are powering FM radio stations for U.S. broadcasters, and that's starting to grow. And so, yeah, it's been a really interesting run. Very different than TikTok, very different than social media, and frankly, very different than the prior business of a streaming music service. This is really a technology-driven business, but we're making an impact, and we're a bootstrapped company. We actually didn't raise this time. The last company was VC-backed. We chose this time to not do any VC. Which is a very different experience and frankly much harder and scarier.
I bet.
There's a lot of times when you're self-funded that you're staring at failure and not being able to pay the bills and having to shut down. So that's a different thing. But and so that's kind of been where my focus has been in recent years is building that platform and that business out.
Yeah. Well, radio's been such a traditional industry, and I guess you guys have broken into it. What's been some of the biggest challenges maybe that you've faced getting in there?
Well, so our technology is AI. It's proprietary AI, and it's performing a lot of functions that humans do in radio. And my orientation in business since I got into it over 20 years ago was that a business should always find ways to do whatever it is they do faster, better, and cheaper. What I learned here, and I think AI now is such a big conversation for everyone, everywhere, and in every industry, is that a lot of people do not want their work automated. Maybe some of it, but what we have found in the broadcast industry in particular is that they do not want to give up the control that they have and the manual workflows that they do. I thought we were going to be the white knight. Look at us. We are going to help you guys do it faster, better, cheaper. You're going to make more money. You can do so much more with us. No way. No way. The rejection that we saw was massive and widespread. I've never seen anything like it. And I think what's happening with AI right now in probably every industry is something very similar. Is a lot of people that are afraid of losing, hey, this is what I do. What value do I have if you're automating most of or all of what I do? And so this was one of the hardest things I've done, selling into these businesses software that truly automates their work. It is a very hard thing. And we really honestly believe that AI is a force multiplier, that it can really help. And the ones who embrace it are the ones who are going to advance. And you're going to be more valuable by using our technology because you can do what you do now times 10, times 100. But that is not the orientation. The broadcast industry in particular is not a tech-forward industry. There's been no real tech investment there in a long time. And so the resistance that we've seen has just been kind of stunning. That said, we're still breaking through, but man, is it way harder than we ever imagined. And it just makes me think a lot, though, when I read about AI every day now. I'm sure we all are. It's the only thing happening in the news. It's, what is it now? Like the whole stock market is basically AI now. And we're just reading about stories every day about how white collar work is about to be automated away, right? The most extreme doomsday vision is that, half of white collar work will be gone in a few years. I think that's probably an exaggeration, but maybe it's not. And so I think, just selling AI into an industry, seeing its capabilities, but seeing the resistance and the fear is very real, and I understand it. And I think anyone who's wondering about AI, I think my only advice is to embrace it now. Don't resist it. Don't it's hype, or that's not for me. It's for you. It's for everyone now. And it's not a Google search engine. It is a thinking system that people should embrace and learn how to use in ways that I think can make you, frankly, much more valuable and productive, not less. But yeah, that's kind of the topic of the day for me and my job, and I think really for the country, is how to handle AI.
Well, I've had other folks on the show, and they're very, very savvy with AI, but the level at which and the scale at which you could talk about AI and educate the audience on just where you see things going with AI. And, you mentioned the stock market. It's, there's a big risk there. We've talked about other risks that you see in the market with AI, but I'd love to just hear your thoughts on, how this continues to evolve and what you see like next. What's the most exciting? Maybe like what's some things you're a little bit hesitant about with AI? Because I just don't know that we'll have many people that can talk at the level of what you've seen in AI.
Yeah, I think AI, ChatGPT really brought AI onto the scene in a major way. And I don't know, what was that, 3 years ago now? And so the chatbots, Google has Gemini and Anthropic has Claude, and there's others. And these chatbots have just gotten more and more powerful. And I think a lot of people are mostly using it like a search engine. But they really do extraordinary things. They can create things and documents and strategies and, you name it. It's amazing what they've been able to do. But what's happened, I think even this month, is this sort of next level, which is the agents. I've been hearing about, AI agents now for more than a year, but I haven't seen them doing much. It's been like that. There's so much hype out there, but there are things happening now with agents where it's not AI responding to you. It's AI that is going out and performing tasks independent of you. And we're using one now. We just set something up at our company. It has nothing to do with our own proprietary AI, but we're using Anthropic to. We've basically created a business development manager that can go out and do research. We can ask it to do something and go out and take a series of steps, research and do communications and workflows, and come back and say, here's an opportunity, here's my analysis, here's who you can contact, here's the pitch to make. Do you want me to go make that? I mean, it truly is like having an employee And so this I'm seeing for the first time, and this capability really just came about in recent weeks, where I'm saying, whoa, this is more than a chatbot. This is like an employee that is executing things in ways that I don't even think I could do, because the amount of work and time it would take to go do that research and put it together and then put it into a nice document that says, here's the opportunity and here's the pitch and here's who you would go to. And, and to do that almost instantly, for me, who's been working in AI for years, is shocking and terrifying. So the capabilities have just made a giant leap here in recent weeks. It's not impacting every industry dramatically yet, although I think for engineers, a lot of engineers, from what I can tell, are freaking out. And you're seeing all these big headlines. Spotify had one the other day where no one writes code there anymore. It's just all agents doing this. It's all AI doing their coding. So think about that. This is an engineering company that's made up of thousands and thousands of software engineers, and now no one is writing code. That is crazy. But I think every other industry now that's gonna start to slowly kind of go through these industries, and people are gonna be like, oh, I can basically have these agents instead of employees doing these workflows, doing these tasks, doing these communications. I don't need people to do this anymore because this is way faster, better, and cheaper. And they're gonna have to do it. Right? Every business is going to have to do it, because it's like, if I don't do this, my competitor is going to do this and I'm just going to lose. So, the adoption of all this, I think, is going to be pretty fast. And it's getting better every day. Anthropic and OpenAI are using AI to write their own code. So the speed of their evolution, when you think of like product evolution over the years, very slow. Now, the evolution, it's like every day I'm reading about some new big step up from Gemini or from OpenAI or from Anthropic and the others. It is leapfrogging every day because AI is now doing the coding. So the speed of this change is accelerating, and the capabilities are just going to keep getting crazier and crazier. And I think everyone in every industry is going to be impacted. And so my advice is to absolutely start embracing this stuff. Start using it. Start experimenting, even if it's uncomfortable and you don't really, I'm not an engineer. It doesn't matter who you are. You don't have to be an engineer anymore. You can create things with AI that you absolutely could never have done a year ago, and now you can. I'm seeing non-engineers create extraordinary applications with zero coding experience. That was just unheard of not too long ago. So where's it going to be a year from now? And so I think this is coming after every industry. And I think I think it's exciting, it's terrifying, but I think ultimately it's when we look back, it'll be progress and allow us to advance as a society and a civilization, I hope. But the big fear of white collar work being wiped out by this, if that happens, I don't know how the system works, right? Because our whole economy, it's a consumer spending economy. Most of that spend comes from white collar people, right? And so if white collar work starts to get automated away in the millions or tens of millions, I think we have a very different problem to solve. But maybe AI can solve that problem.
Yeah. Like 6 years ago, I listened to a podcast with Mark Cuban on there, and the interviewer asked him, what do you think, what jobs will be non-existent in 10 years? And he said, developers, without a doubt, they'll be done. And this was when it was the hype of developer, development,
right,
and
paying,
they could command whatever they wanted. And I was like, man, this is crazy that you would say that, being a tech guy. And it is coming to fruition.
It is.
Hearing what you're talking about, but we're seeing it too. And but that is a scary place to be.
It is. There was a stat the other day, though. It's interesting. Technology. There's so much hype right now, but adoption is always, I think, slower than you would expect. And if you look back at the other technology waves, it takes so much longer for the masses to really take it in and use it. And there was a stat the other day that came out that like something like 0.4% of the global population has ever paid for an AI service, and 0.004% are using it like in advanced ways. So it's like it's still super early. You know, like there's all these conversations. Well, white collar work is going to be wiped away, and it's like, but we still have unemployment below 5%, right? It's 4.5 or some percent. So it's not happening yet. I think it's happening in some key areas, like in technology, right? Like software engineers are probably losing jobs. But in most industries, it's not. We're not seeing it yet. Doesn't mean it's not coming. But, you know, we've been hearing about this hype for a little while. And as far as I can tell, it's allowing employees to be a lot more productive, but it's not replacing them yet. I'm starting to see how it could happen. And what my company does now has done that, but on such a small scale. So there's a lot of fear and a lot of hype. My sense is this does take a lot longer than everyone's saying.
Yeah. What, you know, you have always been a thought leader, innovator, and a disruptor. What is the opportunity on the other side of, let's just say, you know, not if white collar work goes away, that's going to be a huge problem for everyone, but do you see the opportunity of what's next?
I have to say, this is, my whole career now has been in technology, and this is the first time I have felt very disoriented and not sure of what's coming. I've always been sure of what's coming. I'm like, I see where this is going. You know, I've seen history, the cycles of technology, and I can always and that's how I got into the music service. That's how I got with Flippagram. That's how I got with TikTok, and now Super Hi-Fi. I could see a little bit ahead of where things were going. With this one, I have to say I am not sure, because every technology advancement we've had enabled the human to do more. And human intelligence was able to sort of, you know, grasp these evolutions and use them, and humans were able to use them to their benefit. You know, Steve Jobs, I'll never forget, he has that line, one of his most famous, where he talks about the Mac in the early days. And he's like, you know, the computer is the bicycle of the mind, right? The computer empowered human intelligence. And that was true. And look at what's happened since then. But AI replaces human intelligence. And so that's where I don't know where this goes, because if it's replacing human intelligence and not empowering it, and look, make no mistake, it's empowering humans to do a lot more. I'm using it right now in crazy ways. But you play it out, and it does seem like it really does replace a lot of what the human mind would do. And so it's hard for me to imagine what we do then if the things we do are automated. But with every major cycle, this has been the case. Right? With every automation, well, what are we going to do now? And we always evolve and find some new. So I'm optimistic that we do evolve, and that ultimately life becomes better. But for the first time in my life, when I look ahead, I genuinely am not sure what is on the other side of this. I am praying. I have 4 children. I am praying that it is something better than what we have now. But man, have I read a lot of articles lately where the scenarios are not better than they are today. And I just don't know. I believe in the human spirit, and I believe in the American way, the American system. And I think that we will have some major growing pains, but ultimately we will grow and be better. You know, social media, when I look back, in 2014, we pitched the venture capitalists with this idea that Flippagram was the democratization of storytelling. We were allowing the masses to create media and communicate in ways that they couldn't before. And we really believed it. We thought it was a noble cause. And you know, if you go back to Twitter and Jack Dorsey and I don't know about Zuckerberg, but many in the social media tech world, we really thought, I believed it was a noble cause, that we were making the world a better place, that this was good. We were advancing. And when I fast forward today to 10 years from now, there have been terrible growing pains from social media. I mean, look what it's done, right? It has created massive political division, misinformation, chaos, the young women on Instagram, committing suicide, right? And the addiction to social media and the anti-social results of society. The stats of young men not going out into the world, but like kind of closing up, right? And they're not living healthy, productive lives in a lot of cases because of social media. And so when I look back on it, I think, wow, we thought we were doing good. I think we can say for sure a lot of what's come from this is not good. But I still believe net that we have grown and that we are advancing and that we are getting better. There's terrible growing pains. There's been terrible side effects. But I gotta believe that it's getting better ultimately in the end. And I think when I look at what's coming with AI, I think there's going to be terrible growing pains. I think a lot of people are going to get hurt. In fact, they already are. But with all things, no pain, no gain. Mm-hmm. And I do think there will be gain. But I think these next few years are going to be some of the most dramatic change that we've ever seen. I think AI is bigger than the internet. I think AI is bigger than the automobile. I think it really is ultimately going to have a bigger change on humans than some of these major inventions and new technologies we've seen over the decades.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's coming from you. That is point taken. So, what do you? I guess what's next for Super
Hi-Fi?
Yeah.
I have a lot of really big ideas for how music and audio can evolve, how the listening experience could be something that is beyond what we do today. I think Spotify is the clear leader of music and audio and podcasts, right? That they're really, and YouTube, but YouTube's video. I think video and audio are very different things, and audio is sort of my space. And so when I think of what most people do today on Spotify or Apple Music, on demand, interactive, very personalized, but ultimately you have to lean forward with Spotify. You have to, what playlist do you want to listen to? You have to curate the podcasts that you listen to. It takes work. And I believe the evolution of that is a lean back experience. I think with technology where it is and where it's going, and certainly the technology that we have, the ultimate experience is that you don't have to search or browse or curate or do that work or lean forward. You should just be able to turn it on in your car, in your home, and your AirPods, and be able to have the music or podcast or audio content play and get it right for you every time, every day, no matter what you're doing. I think that evolution is coming. And I think there's an opportunity actually to displace Spotify. I think I know what comes after that. And I think we have the plumbing and the capability and the technology and the intellectual property to bring about that next generation sort of audio use case. So I'm working on that and trying to do it in a few different ways.
Yeah. Well, that's good. The audience heard it here today. So disrupting Spotify.
I think that's ultimately what's going to happen.
Do you ever see like wearables and moods, like how wearables now can tell you triggering events? And so like it's 5 o'clock, I'm leaving work and traffic's terrible. Do I get served up different content based on that in the future versus like I leave and there's no traffic and my mood is very low?
I think there's so many inputs from wearables, from location and the environment of that location, the time of day, your history of, types of content you consume, right? That information's all there. And so I think that is precisely the kind of stuff I look at, wearables in particular, being able to say, okay, this would be the right thing for this person at this time from a music and audio standpoint. I think that's all inevitable. And I think with where AI has gone and where it's going, and even AI voice technology, I'm sure you've been seeing the evolution. There are companies like 11 Labs, but now there's companies even beyond what 11's doing, where voice technology is truly, truly getting very, very good. When you take the voice technology plus an AI chatbot behind that, you really are able to have an AI speak to you in a really, really interesting way. And I think that is going to be a key ingredient to how we consume audio in the future. It won't just be the call center that you call, but I think you're going to start to see it come up in consumer experiences and in new products and use cases. That's really profound and helpful.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, we work in healthcare and behavioral health, and there's some technologies in that space that are they've gotten so good that they have to say at the beginning that they're an AI.
Yeah, you don't know anymore.
Yeah, but you would have maybe a year ago.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it is advancing really quickly. And I mean, I know we could talk for like days on this stuff. This has been such an amazing conversation. Yeah. Is there anything maybe that I didn't ask you, John, that you think would be beneficial to the audience, or anything you want to share?
I think the biggest thing on my mind is AI right now and where it's going. There's been evolutions just in recent days, and the speed of it feels very overwhelming and very scary, even to me who's in this world every day. And I think I want to reiterate that to everyone, that don't be afraid of it, embrace it, and start experimenting with it. Don't use it as a search engine. Use it as engage it. And really try to push limits, even if you don't feel comfortable doing it, especially if you don't feel comfortable doing it. I really think that this could be something that makes the world a better place. But seeing people be afraid or left behind or losing their job because of it is, and I'm already seeing that, and that's hard to see. And I think trying to embrace it is a great way to try to go into this new era. Yeah. Instead of just staying away from it. Because I think a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah. One last question. I don't want to leave it without asking you about the Nashville move. So you were, in California, spent many years. You went to Beijing, probably spent a lot of time there, went back to California. And then I guess what precipitated the move to Nashville? And then maybe even how has Nashville been for you since you moved here?
Yeah, I met my wife in Los Angeles 20 years ago, and almost 20 years ago, and we love Los Angeles, but we just didn't have any family out there, and we started having kids, and we have family in Nashville and Memphis and Atlanta, and so we wanted to be near family. So it was purely about family. It was not career related. So we moved here in 2016, and we chose Nashville. Atlanta, the traffic was way too bad. It was worse than LA, I thought. Memphis is a great city, but I don't think I could live there. I love Memphis, but it's got its challenges. And so Nashville was just perfect, and we've really loved it. We've raised our 4 children here. The community is really wonderful. LA is like a big sea of strangers, and Nashville's like a little tight-knit community compared to LA. When I moved here in 2016, I was at TikTok at the time, and I remember looking at the companies here, and I was really worried because I'm like, man, if I ever want to just like if I leave TikTok or if I don't start my own company, I don't know what I would do here. There was not much of a tech scene really at all. And to see over the past 10 years, I wouldn't call it a great tech scene, but there is one now. Mm-hmm. And there is so much more happening here in terms of industry. And so seeing the growth of the city has been really awesome. I have loved it. I think I've talked to some locals who don't love the growth, and I can appreciate that. But I have really loved to see it grow, and just the opportunities here and the people here. It's been great. This is one of the best cities I've ever lived in, and I recommend it to anyone. It really is a special place that I think, and it's a place for everyone. Mm-hmm. I think I have a lot of friends who've come from LA and New York, Chicago, and I have yet to come across anyone who does not love this city.
Yeah.
There's complaints about the food. Food's not always perfect, but with that one exception, it really has been great here.
You should have lived here 20 years ago.
Yeah, I heard.
Like it has evolved so much. And
well, even from 10 years ago, it's gotten a lot. There's a lot of great places now.
Mm-hmm.
But man, coming from LA, I was spoiled. There was just such any corner you can walk into just about any restaurant and it would be amazing. That is not the case here. But there's a few good special places.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you so much for being on the show today. And thanks for sharing all your experience and background and just wisdom on the market and where it's going. AI, there's very few people that can talk at the level. And I appreciate you bringing your insights to the audience. Thanks for all you're doing in Nashville to make us a better technology community and a better place to live. So, thanks to the audience for joining us today. Thanks for listening in or watching, however you consume your podcast. We appreciate you being a part of it. We'll see you next time on The Spark.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Spark from Creative Assembly. Thanks for spending time with us and exploring the minds shaping Nashville's creative future. If you're walking away more inspired, connected, or energized, that's exactly the point. A big thank you to our sponsor, Snapshot, and the incredible team behind the scenes who make this show possible. Your support fuels every conversation and keeps collaboration alive. So if you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, stay creative, stay curious, and keep that spark.